know that there was like another fight that involved one of your fighters there in the super middleweight division. Is that Vladimir Shishkin scored a decision win over Jose Uzcategui. There was a very big win there for Vladimir Shishkin, and I think that has positioned him as currently #2 in the IBF rankings there for the super middleweight division. I know that William Skull is there at #1, but Shishkin is there at #2, and that's real good position there for Shishkin for him potentially fighting for the world title there at super middleweight.
Definitely, yes. Vladimir, another guy that I signed about 3 years ago, who I believed in, has has passed every test with flying colors. A great win against Uzcategui. Trying to, I mean, the word on the street is that Canelo is going to fight John Ryder, but if that doesn't work out, I believe that Vladimir Shishkin makes a lot more sense because he has a style that's very similar to Bivol, and he's obviously Russian, trained by Sugar Hill, so has a lot of similarities to what Bivol would bring to the table. I believe that Shishkin has a great chance to beat Canelo. John Ryder is a southpaw, but I obviously don't have any influence over that decision. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that Shishkin is an elite fighter, and we can expect big things from this year. If it's not Canelo, it'll be something significant.
Gotcha. I know that with him, kind of like having that fight there under was it was under Premier Boxing Champions there, but he had that as part of the card on December 17th last year. And I know that we've had like a couple of super middleweight bouts here under Premier Boxing Champions. There's been a couple of people that have mentioned to me that maybe Shishkin could have a fight against newly entered in 168, Dmitriy Salita, who had his decision win over Devon Nicholson last Saturday. So maybe that could be another potential matchup there for Vladimir Shishkin.
Haven't had any discussions about that at all, but you never know what is going to happen. Possibly, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, wanted to kind of get into, like you said, you had a heavyweight there in Jermaine Franklin there that could potentially face Anthony Joshua. You have another heavyweight that I've mentioned multiple times over the years or so, and that's Otto Walling. And I'm seeing here if Otto Walling could be put in a very good position to be a highly ranked contender there in the heavyweight division. From what I'm seeing, I have him slated at #3 in the WBO heavyweight rankings. That is, really key there, given that, you might have that situation with the world titles could be for undisputed Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, but you also have an interim champion there in Joe Joyce. So maybe you could have something where you could potentially have Otto Walling fighting for the interim WBO title against Joe Joyce. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we'll be interested in exploring. We've had some discussions with them back in August or September, but we've also had interest from Anthony Joshua at that time. So that's a big fight for Otto. Another big fight. Otto, I believe, is one of the best heavyweights in the world, and needs and deserves a big fight. He's one of the names that Joshua is considering, but feels like Joshua's going to go in a different direction because Otto is too difficult. Dillian White versus Otto would be a great fight as well. It was supposed to happen last year. Hopefully, the problem with these guys is that they don't want to take on tough fights. Dillian White told Jermaine was going to be an easy fight. He didn't realize that it was a tough fight until he was in the ring. So, and these platforms pay these fighters so much money. And obviously the boxing fans tune in. It turned out to be a good fight by accident, not by. I knew it was. I mean, I felt that Jermaine would win, but everybody else and people came up to me, real people, powerful people came up to me 2 days before Jermaine's fight, and they said, "Do you think he's gonna last? Can he at least, you think he's gonna last a couple of rounds? Because they saw him at the public workout and they felt that he wasn't impressive. But I know that Jermaine, obviously being with him all these years, I know how he ticks and how he works and his personality, and he did what he did, which was incredible. So we have to demand good fights for fighters. I'm a promoter, right? So it's obviously a balance, but most importantly, I want the sport to grow, because if the sport doesn't grow, then everybody gets hurt, and the fighters get hurt. So I think that we have to be inclusive, not exclusive, talking about the promoters, and we have to make the best fights for the fighters and for the fans. And when you exclude yourself and you only work with this guy and only work with that guy, then your fighters can fight the big fights, and the boxing fans can't support the sport of boxing like they should, like they want to. But when you don't give them those opportunities, and people get on social media and say all kinds of stuff, and it doesn't happen, so it's like really not truthful, and it hurts the sport of boxing when it's like repetitive.
Right.
So it's important that people that are in key positions, promoters, managers, fighters, respect their word and honor what they say. And if it's a possibility, if you talk about something as it is a possibility, you have to state that it's a possibility, so that and not give the people the wrong impression. Because when that happens, it just diminishes the sport of boxing. And Anthony Joshua, particularly, Eddie Hearn has been associating Anthony Joshua with lots of big names. Supposedly, he was going to fight Fury in December. I was talking about him fighting Deontay Wilder in the summer. But all of it is name affiliation. Then a couple of days ago, I see it online that he's been linked to fight Dempsey McKean from Australia, a guy I've never heard of. And I Googled him on YouTube, watched some YouTube videos. It's like, Joshua can train by himself and beat this guy. I mean, it's not an athletic competition. It's celebrity boxing, because Joshua is a celebrity in England, and some people may come to see him fight, but it's not an athletic competition. And then but when you talk about Anthony Joshua fighting Tyson Fury, and then you go like down like 10 levels and fight somebody like McKean, it's like, well, really? So I feel that it's important, even if look, I represent Otto Whalen and Anthony and Jermaine Franklin, so I'm interested in him picking one of those guys. But honestly, as a boxing fan, like you gotta not be a studio gangster. You gotta put your mouth where your money is. And if you talk about these guys and you want to fight Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, then you gotta show that you mean business. Honestly, Anthony Joshua even find Dillian White. Dillian, for Jermaine, it's a great performance, and it was a great opportunity where he came from being a no-name, not a lot of people know who he was, come to another country and doing what he did and really winning the fight and not getting a decision. So really, Dillian is like 1-4 in his last 5 fights, I think. He lost to Povetkin, he got knocked out, then he got knocked out by Tyson Fury, then he really lost to Jermaine. So 3-1. So and he fought Povetkin, who was just coming off of COVID, and you could see that he wasn't like the real Povetkin. So again, celebrity boxing, as a boxing fan, to me, White versus Joshua is not intriguing at all. Unless White is gonna fight in April, unless he fights like a real live body, maybe a rematch with Jermaine, Otto, anyone else on that level, a real fighter, and shows that he still can compete at an elite level, then his fight with Joshua means something. But today, coming off the performance against Jermaine, I don't think Joshua fighting White proves anything, athletically speaking. It's celebrity boxing, but I don't know from an elite boxing point of view that it shows anything, because Dillian White so far hasn't shown that. He's shown that he's on the other side of his peak, on the other side of his career. He hasn't shown that he's an elite guy.
Yeah, and like you said there with your performance of Dillian White against Jermaine Franklin, like you said, he should have lost that decision to Jermaine Franklin there, and him potentially going over to fight Anthony Joshua at that point wouldn't really move the needle as a boxing fan is concerned. And he also mentioned a thing there with Dempsey McKean. Dempsey McKean was actually, one of like a sparring partner or work with Anthony Joshua at one point. So having that particular fight is like, some people would say that's like charity, basically. You know what I mean? So you would, kind of like say, hey, Dempsey, since you, was working with me, let's go ahead and, have this type of fight or whatever it is. And, we all, could make money. But Joshua should be able to, just try to head and make the biggest fights possible there that could be against a potential fight against Otto Wally and or Jermaine Franklin there on April 1st. So, it remains to be seen how, Anthony Joshua, 258 Management, and Eddie Hearn there with Matchroom Boxing, how they'll be able to move there once that kind of like.
Yeah, but I think we'll know in a couple of days. I mean, the fact the fight hasn't been announced, and it's and it's been every week is next week, and it's after New Year's now, shows that there's real tension probably between management, Anthony, Eddie, and the network. If I would have to guess, I would say that's how it's going. Yeah. I gotta jump in a little bit. So let's do one more question.
Yeah,
and hook up again next week.
Yeah, no doubt. So I want to jump into there. You talked about Claressa Shields had a big win over Savannah Marshall there for the undisputed middleweight championship, and I've kind of like heard some buzz about maybe there could be a potential interest in a rematch between those two, or if maybe Claressa Shields goes up to super middleweight and potentially fights there at super middleweight once again. So is there like any updated news there with Claressa Shields, the GWOP?
Yeah, I think the rematch is a great idea. Down the line, I believe that for it to be, the best it could be, they both should have a fight in between. We want to see Savannah Marshall change something and do something, to kind of and get back to winning ways. Claressa wants to fight the biggest and the best fights. So Jonas, we believe, is a great fight because she's a world champion. Terry Harper may be a good fight because she's a world champion. And those would be good in-between fights that we would consider before the Marshall rematch. But we're working on getting Claressa back in the ring first quarter of this year. And, hopefully we'll have some good news in the near future.
Yeah, I did hear about potentially Natasha Jonas being an opponent. I know that she moved up, a couple of divisions to win a world title here. And she is like one of the fan favorites over in the UK. So fight between Claressa Shields and Natasha Jonas would generate some good buzz there for that particular fight. So definitely looking to see what would happen there as far as like the update with Claressa Shields. But once again, I thank you so much for taking the time here to join us here at the Boxing Source. And yeah, we'll see if we can catch up again next week for more on Salita Promotions. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you may be inducted into the Hall of Fame there in the state of New York, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes, thank you.
Coming up as well. So congratulations on that, future induction, and we'll get more information on that here in the coming days. So thanks once again for joining us here at the Boxing Source, Dmitriy.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon, man. Have a good weekend.